A driving force in creation of Roxbury Community College was the community effort for more opportunities in education and leadership. That's honored by the annual fundraiser held by the RCC Foundation. This year's event will be a virtual gala that will honor 3 Black women who were trailblazers in local journalism, as well as models of community service. To tell us about the event are the college president, Dr. Valerie Roberson, and a member of the foundation board, as well as being an education official for the city of Boston, Eva Mitchell. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Well, good to see you again. Dr. Robertson, before we get into the people being honored, this is really a series of events that are held every year honoring legends of Roxbury. Why the emphasis on the community connection for this college?
Well, I think that RCC is firmly rooted in its community, and we fully recognize that those communities that surround us played an integral part in our being a college, that there was a public uprising from the community that wanted the community college there. And we think our role is to continue to provide education to that community. And so even though this is our fundraising event, it's also an opportunity to educate the community and make sure that these strong legacies that are born there continue to be recognized and celebrated.
Eva, tell me a little bit about the people who are going to be honored in this year's event.
All right, well, I'll start with Sarah Ann Shaw, who was a mentor to me when I first arrived in Boston, and helped me to understand a lot about the legacy of Roxbury and the people here. Sarah Ann Shaw, not only was she the first female African-American television reporter at WBZ TV in Boston, she was also a community activist that arose issues in the community to make sure that we got the kind of coverage and press so that we could address it politically. The Reverend Liz Walker, who we all knew as the first Black woman to co-anchor a newscast in Boston, now the pastor of Roxbury Presbyterian Church, has been a mentor to many others, and not just in her industry, but also as a community leader that has led in that religious space. Carmen Fields, Pulitzer Prize winner and producer host of WDH-TV Higher Ground, has been a continuing presence that we've honored, that kept us all attuned to the issues that are most relevant to our community. We feel like there is no better time than to celebrate broadcast journalists at a time where the way that we have gotten some movement and attention to the issues of communities of color have been through broadcast journalists that have highlighted the impacts of COVID and highlighted the double pandemics that has included racism.
Dr. Robertson, one of the things that strike many of us about these 3 women is that they were not only early examples of stepping into a given role, but they also changed the definition of these roles in some way.
I think you're right. I mean, I think that as Eva said, that these are individuals that have brought to light some of the issues that are facing the community, and by their very presence, they change the way that news is produced and how people receive that news.
Eva, of course, because these people were working in the news, they weren't just doing the same thing everybody else was. They were also changing perceptions of a broader community. I know you might be looking back a little bit, but how do you appreciate that?
Yeah, the biggest importance for us was we needed the issues reframed. The community of color was not portrayed in the news as a community with resilience, with power, and with strength. And they reframed that. They helped us to reclaim the dignity that we already had, but on a larger scale to showcase that out throughout Boston. And I would say that their presence alone has allowed us to raise the issues that we need to move to make progress in the city.
Dr. Roberson, put that into a wider context of what you do at Roxbury Community College, because community colleges are supposed to help people fill jobs, is like putting a peg into a hole. But
Yeah.
this is also about helping students refine those jobs. Let's say, for instance, in the healthcare field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, the one thing that this particular segment for Legends of Roxbury will highlight our broadcast media students, and you'll get a chance to see some of our alumni. In fact, Tashani Edwards is the MC of the night. She was a local broadcast media individual herself, and she's since moved on from Boston. But this is the power of education, where someone has an idea and they get a chance to study it, and then they get to make a profession of it. And so you've mentioned our healthcare programs. That's certainly true. And you know, especially in the time of pandemic, we need to be concerned about making sure that we have people to fill the positions in healthcare that are highly qualified, especially when we start talking about distributing the vaccine and those types of things. So there'll be all kinds of new opportunities for students to study these fields and then get involved and help us all as a community. We need healthcare workers.
Eva, of course, the purpose of a fundraiser is to raise money for the college. We could think of that as benefiting facilities, but also for students. So what would you say here?
Yeah, so the money raised from this event will support our students directly through scholarships, student services, and program improvements. And we especially need that support now because the pandemic has had a disproportionate impact on the students that we serve. And over 80% of RCC students identify as people of color. 80% need financial assistance. There are many immigrants, single parents, and first-generation college students. And parents who are trying to juggle the demands of their education with their children. And now more than ever, we need to make sure that the college has money to provide the kind of intense support that folks need to finish their degree.
And by the way, even if students do have other sources where they can get help with tuition or fees, there's a lot more they have to pay for to get through a college, even a community college. Isn't that true?
That's certainly true.
That's absolutely right. And one thing that the foundation has prioritized, one thing that our president here has prioritized, and the board is to provide make the Roxbury Community College education as low cost or free as possible. And it's very unique across the colleges in this area.
Dr. Roberson, we should remember, especially with community colleges, we're not just talking about somebody who's 18 or 19 years old and living at home with their parents, or have, you know, wealthy parents who can send them to a dorm. We're talking about people who might be raising children themselves and trying to finish college. That's
so true. And sometimes people think of community colleges as the institutions of second chances. That's because many of our students don't decide to come right out of high school to attend community colleges. They may make a different decision to start working, and then they realize that it's very difficult to make it in today's world without a degree. And you're going to be stagnated in terms of the amount of money that you can really earn. And so oftentimes the student will come back in their 20s or after having that experience in the world of work, and now they want to get serious about completing a degree that's going to earn them a living wage where they can really be a homeowner and stay within their community.
Yeah. Eva, what about the event? I mean, I remember the event last year. You know, there was a live musical performance. You know, and you have people getting together. Before that, with an in-person experience, is very sociable. Now you can't do anything like that. So how are you going to make this work this year?
We're going to have a fabulous event. I hope you come. It does have to be virtual, of course, but we're going to have live performances. I'll let our president talk about that. And we're opening it up so that it's free to the public, but we are actively soliciting donations before and during the event. But it's a time for celebration because RCC is the center of a lot of the community life in Roxbury, and we want to continue with that. But it's going to be really exciting. President, would you like to share some of the events that we are expecting? That I don't know if it's secret that we can reveal.
Well, I have one secret that we can reveal, that there will be a musical tribute. Liz Walker's son is a performer at Hamilton, as well as the Temptations play that's out in New York. And so he's going to have a special tribute to his mom. So that's one of the exciting features for the evening.
Well, we should mention finally, Dr. Roberson, if people want to take part in this or help out in some way, what's the best thing for them to do if they can go online?
So they should go to rcc.mass.edu. There's information about the gala. You'll be able to sign on from there. As Eva mentioned, this is a free event. We want everyone from the community to be able to celebrate these amazing women. And all you'll need to do is to access our Facebook page in order to link into the event.
All right, well, thank you both very much for being with us and taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for covering this newsworthy event.
Great. Thank you both, Eva Mitchell and Dr. Valerie Roberson. We'll have more news in just a moment.